The stock fell in the last 5 days, I think $67, and it fell in the last month, $111. No, like you said, it's 90 days, lots of things. We can't predict why it's doing this, but all these things are contributing to it. And then Matt, do you have any kind of ability to quantify anything else, or is it just, again, we don't know?
The one point I wanted to make is you made the comment or the question initially about, okay, markets are down in general. Isn't this just kind of Tesla being a reflection of markets in general being a bit down? And I don't think that's the case. In finance and stocks, there's a concept called beta. And this basically for every 1% that the stock market is down, how much is an individual stock down? Tesla, depending on how you calculate it, there's a couple different ways you can do it, but Tesla's beta is around 1.5, maybe up to 2, depending on the methodology, which would imply if the stock's down, if the market in general is down, let's say 10%, then Tesla should be down 15 to 20%. Tesla's down a lot more than that. So I think this is much broader or much more specific to Tesla than just general market skittishness and weakness concerning around macro. Tesla really did ramp up. Like the stock price, it just exploded after the Q3 results and after the election. And right now, we've just seen all that significant increase in value that happened in a really short period of time. Let's remember that was about a month and a half where Tesla went from about 280, where it is right now, to what was the high? 460 something, 480?
840, yeah.
Yeah, so almost $200, and now we've just given that back, basically. My sense is that the narrative, the kind of story stock that Tesla is, that's what's driving it a little bit more than macro right now. I think macro is a bit of an accelerant, but I was just looking at year to date, the S&P is actually up 1.3%. Amazon, just as one example of the Mag 7, is down 3%, and Tesla's down 25% year to date. So I don't think this is macro so much as the Tesla specific drama and narratives that are going on. But I think, as Jeff very eloquently pointed out, you got to focus on what's long-term changes, what's short-term disruptions in their model and in their supply chain. And I think when we focus on what really matters, it gives us a lot more confidence to make the sober buying and selling investing decisions that we really need to make.
Now, the problem is that we can focus on what matters. We just had several big news. Model Y is now being delivered to customers. You got FSD going in China, being released in China and going viral, and yet nothing. The stocks continue to fall. So I know this is short term. This will be recognized later, but right when you're, like I think somebody said it earlier, right? When the sentiment is so low for growth stocks, it doesn't matter what kind of news you put in. It won't be registered until you've got the sentiment back up again, or the money risk on is back on again.
Yeah, so I think like focusing on what matters, it doesn't mean that when the good news comes out, the stock's going to jump. I think it's more, do you have the comfort level and the confidence as an investor? So as we've had this pretty significant drawback, I'm feeling extremely comfortable. Now, we've got some clients who are freaking out. We've got some clients who are also feeling comfortable, but I think you can't manage these swings, but you can manage around them a little bit. And so we did warn clients that we thought that the scenario like this was possible 2.5 weeks ago. And so I feel like we've done what we can to anticipate the changes that are coming. And now we've got the confidence, I think, of looking at what's going on with FSD. And I think regardless of all the noise going on right now, I'm thinking ahead to August, September, October, and what's the narrative going to be at that point when they've got several months of robotaxi rides and anyone can go to Austin and just experience it. I think we're in an entirely different kind of sentiment headspace when we're there. That's what I mean about focusing on what matters.
Okay, so as Tesla investors, right, we don't want the stock to fall. We don't want Elon to say things like Canada's not a real country. There's a lot of things we wish he didn't say, but he is. At the end of the day, I look at it net. And as an investor, if I'm looking at as an investor and I'm looking at this, why do I want to be invested in Tesla? Signal versus noise. What does it matter? And the things that matter are, yes, volume sales of cars are going to go down. At the end of the day, the amount of cars sold less because of what he's doing is going to be impactful, but it's going to be minuscule compared to the giant leap that's going to happen to the stock when you have solving autonomy, getting robotaxi rolled out, when you got bots. Those are, and of course, energy is still continued to boom, all these things. So at the end of the day, yes, I wish he didn't do it, but I look at it. So let's go to the next big story. This is the interesting thing was this week we had several stories that were pretty big in terms of the fundamentals or in terms of the signal for Tesla stock, right? You got FSD going in China, shocked all of us. It is approved in China. all the cars that have FSD in China are able to test it out and use it in multiple cities. It is not the dumbed down version. It's basically the same version 13.2, and it went viral. I'll show you, and we'll talk about that right now. Model Y is now being delivered to customers in China. This is ahead of what they said. They said they were going to happen in May. It's actually happening now in February. And we see Cybercab hiring already happening now. So Ray for Tesla, one of the people that really follows what's happening in China, said the general consensus from Chinese FSD testers, and he's been reporting on the bloggers and the YouTubers who are showing some test drives. The general consensus is that FSD is extremely human-like, unlike any other Chinese systems, and confident. Driving is silk smooth, like a seasoned human driver, cautious to pedestrians and mopeds. Areas of improvement, the recognition of bus lanes, bike lanes, and traffic lights, picking correct lanes to go straight or left light, turn left at intersection. This is the reasons why they needed more data to be able to solve these kind of problems, and they're using simulation to try to solve that. Elon said, I heard it was the leading topic on Douyin. Douyin is a Chinese version of TikTok. And Ashok Goswami, who's the vice president of autonomy, said apparently 1.3 billion views. There is, I can just probably show you hundreds of videos that are happening right now of Chinese drivers testing it. Here's an example of a very tight scenario here. I'm going to, get it out of there. And the car is doing incredibly well. Yeah, so it's able to maneuver and work well in very tough conditions. A lot of these scenarios in a lot of these cities are just completely complex, and yet the car seems to be performing just fine there. And this is another video here. Anyways, it's a great rollout, and it's so far being well received, and it is being talked about. This is big news. How are you guys viewing this?
So I'll just say this is one of those events that I've been looking forward to for a long time. FSD has been a US only thing for a long time, then a North America only thing for a long time. And I've been watching with great anticipation when we'd get regulatory approvals in Europe and China, and trying to get an estimate of when that would be. Because obviously, if you've got this like super neutered version of FSD, which is what we've had in Europe and China and most of the rest of the world, for many years now, it implies that take rates are going to be pretty terrible in those locations. So this is a pretty meaningful catalyst in the short-term earnings, I think, because it stands to reason that you're going to have some deferred FSD revenue recognition. I think it's going to be reasonably small, but the bigger thing is that take rates are going to go up. So this is, I think, a very impactful short-term catalyst. Later this year, I think we should actually start seeing some meaningful improvement in FSD take rates worldwide. And for that reason, it's been like one of these things I've been really trying to get an estimate of. This just came out of nowhere, it seemed, where there was all these rumors of Tesla or of China using this approval of FSD as a negotiating tactic with the trade war with Trump, concerns about the Teslas not being able to get the videos out of China and trade them and train on the GPU clusters in the United States. And so for Tesla to basically just ship this when nobody was expecting it, I think is extremely impressive. So I think that it's a really meaningful improvement to the company's financial performance in the, let's call it, medium-ish term. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact in the next quarter or two, but I think we're going to start seeing take rate tick up. And one of the things I've really been looking forward to is the company actually starting to disclose take rate or number of FSD subscribers, something like that will give us some metric to track how overall use is increasing. And so this is a really big deal. And if you would have told me 6 months ago that on the day FSD was released in China, completely unexpectedly, by the way, that the stock would be down whatever 6% or whatever it was yesterday, I would have laughed. This is very big news, and I think it's being underappreciated just how big of an impact this is.
The two biggest leaders in China is Baidu, is considered to be even bigger than Waymo. They have 2,000 cars, and they're showing it in multiple cities. Then you've got Huawei. They did this incredible video that went viral, out of spec, showed this one Huawei car that is doing incredibly well. They only are available, right, Jeff? You're saying this, that they're only available in the premium version of Huawei cars. In the meantime, with Tesla releasing FSD in China, with FSD's official rollout in China, the number of Teslas eligible for the FSD has risen from about 2.6 million, which is what US fleet is, to now 5.1 if you add the 2.5 million cars in China that is now FSD capable. So Tesla now has 5 million cars globally. 2.5 million cars in China is FSD capable, which means that they're robotaxi capable as long as you got regulation, as long as the owner decides that they want to put it into the network. Millions, 2.5 million cars. So where's the competition? It's like you have to think about that way.
So I was just doing some quick math because I'm a numbers freak. And I think one of the things I'm trying to figure out is what's the earnings impact of this? Because this, as a surprise, this might not be baked into analyst earnings estimates. So if we've got 2.5 million vehicles that are now suddenly eligible, how many of those would actually opt to purchase it? There's actually not an FSD subscription price in China, so they would have to purchase
it. It's 8,800. It's 8,000. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so purchase, but you can't subscribe, and that's one of the things that I think is hurting Tesla's financials a little bit right now is that they're offering the subscription, so you're not getting that upfront earnings per share and cash benefit that you do with an FSD sale. I think Tesla's a lot more, or I think Chinese customers are a lot more tech heavy than their North American counterparts. So it would seem logical to me that when the capability is on par with the American experience, which I think it is now, the take rate should be higher in China, I would think. Now, maybe not right away, but over time, I would think that would be the case. And so my quick math was, all right, 2.5 million vehicles at, let's just say, a 5% take rate, which I don't know if that'll happen all in one quarter, but I think it's a reasonable assumption for that fleet size. And if you assume it's only 75% recognizable, then that gets to $825 million of earnings impact, which is pretty substantial. This could be something that hurts or that offsets a bit of the pain that we're going to see in Q1 with the lower Model Y output and all the issues that we've spoken about earlier in this show. So that's something I need to think about a little bit more because I hadn't really been baking that into my own models. A little live math right there.
That's exciting. Live math from Matt. Maybe that can be its own little segment.
Math from
Math. We'll bore everyone.
That's great that you did that, actually, because that's exactly what's happening. And it went viral. It went viral in China, and they're all looking to be right to have that one edge in tech. So you're right that I think the percentage of uptake there will be even higher than the US.
And I think one of the things that a lot of people have been sleeping on is the potential for FSD on its own to be a driver of sales with the vehicles. There are probably a lot of like tech heavy people in China and elsewhere that want the most advanced tech. And honestly, in the last couple of years before version 13, I think FSD was not a reason to buy a car, to buy a Tesla. But now I think it very much is. And so I would suspect that'd be a huge tailwind for Chinese customers to be opting for Teslas instead of their competitors in the future. I'm pretty bullish about this the more I'm thinking about it.